Poor girl cried as she was humiliated. A millionaire came to help and realized that she was. The square was alive with activity, children playing and couples strolling hand in hand. Sophia felt like a shadow among all those smiling faces. Sitting on a weathered wooden bench, she held a yellowed letter with slightly crumpled edges that she had received that morning. The rejection letter from the university was in her hands, and the words "we regret to inform" echoed in her head like a cruel mantra. She looked at the crumpled paper, her eyes burning with tears that finally started to slip down her cheeks. The dream of studying, changing her life, now seemed like a sand castle, crumbling at the edge of the sea. "I can't believe this is happening," she murmured to herself, voice choked with sadness. A gentle wind blew through her hair. Nothing could calm the storm brewing inside her. As she wiped her tears with the sleeve of her tattered coat, a group of wealthy youths passed by, laughing and talking loudly, their brand-name clothes and exaggerated confidence contrasting with Sophia's simplicity. "Look, a beggar in the square. Did she come to ask for alms?" one of the boys shouted, laughing. Group stopped, surrounding her as if she were a spectacle. The laughter echoed like daggers in her heart. "What are you doing here? What do you do here?" Earl said, her perfectly styled hair, and a look of disdain on her face. Sophia tried to shrink away, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. Humiliation wrapped around her like a heavy cloak, and she tried to hide the letter, but her hands trembled, betraying her fragility. "Go away," pleaded, her voice almost inaudible. "Why are you doing this?" "Sorry, we can't hear you. A beggar's voice doesn't reach us," boy replied, holding his hand to his mouth as if mimicking a megaphone. Sophia felt exposed and vulnerable, as if all her insecurities were on display for the world. Their laughter was deafening, and every word cut deeper than any blade. "Look, she's crying. How pathetic," the boy exclaimed, and the group laughed even louder, as if Sophia's pain were a joke. Reality hit her like a blow. She was just a shadow, an invisible figure in society, marked by her poverty and the expectations surrounding her. Sophia tried to hold back her tears, but a painful memory struck her. She recognized the young people surrounding her. They studied at the same elite school where Sophia, for a brief period, had the chance to visit the library. Louisa, a kind friend, had managed to let Sophia, always curious and dedicated, study there a few times. That time, the suspicious glances and quiet laughter followed her wherever she went. Clara, the leader of the group, never hid her disdain for Sophia. "What is this girl doing here?" Clara used to whisper to others. "She doesn't belong here." The words, spoken in low tones, were sharp and full of malice. Sophia knew that, for them, her presence was an affront, a reminder that she was different, someone who should not have access to what they considered their world. Now, those same people were humiliating her again, in a place that should have been neutral. "They've hated me from the start," Sophia murmured to herself, feeling the weight of rejection. "Just because I wanted to study where they thought I didn't belong." Eduardo watched the scene from a distance, his heart aching at the sight of the young woman in distress. He couldn't understand why that face seemed so familiar, but there was something in it that struck a chord in his soul. Slowly approaching, he found himself in front of Sophia, who was trying, in vain, to hide the tears streaming down her face. The group of wealthy young people, ruthless in their attacks, continued to mock the girl, their words cutting like blades. "Hey, are you okay?" Eduardo asked, his voice soft and full of empathy. Sophia looked up, surprised by his presence. In her eyes reflected a mix of distrust and pain, which made Eduardo hesitate for a moment. "I don't need help," Sophia murmured, trying to look away. Shame consumed her, and the thought of accepting help felt like an affront to her dignity. Eduardo, who had moved even closer, sensed the tension in the air. He gently held Sophia's arm, a simple gesture, but one that seemed to convey an unexpected strength. "Sophia, don't feel ashamed," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "No one here has the right to judge you. You're not doing anything wrong." "But they're right," Sophia replied, her voice trembling. "I'm just a girl with no future, who can't even pass an exam. What are you doing here? There's no reason for you to get involved." The words tumbled from her mouth as if they wanted to break free. The pain of rejection was ever present. "You're not just a girl with no future," Eduardo insisted, his voice firm. You're a person, and you deserve respect. Don't let them dictate your worth. He looked at the young people, his gaze becoming more intense. And as for you, he continued, you should be ashamed of behaving this way. Each person's life here is not measured by the amount of money they have or the status they flaunt. Eduardo was a man of immeasurable fortune, but his life was marked by a simplicity that few understood. Heir to vast wealth, he could have surrendered to luxury and ostentation, but he chose a different path. He lived in a modest home, wore common clothes, and preferred anonymity, the spotlight of high society. From an early age, he knew that money could not buy what he craved most: love and connection. In childhood, Eduardo felt the void left by his absent parents, too busy with their business to give him attention. His only maternal figure was Dona Marta, the governess, who offered him the affection and guidance he so desperately needed. This loneliness shaped his character, making him value what money could not buy: true relationships and a purpose in life. Even with the wealth surrounding him, Eduardo remained humble. He constantly questioned the use of his fortune, carrying the weight of his responsibility with seriousness. Despite all his wealth, Eduardo never let himself be consumed by the power that money could provide him. Instead, he sought a legacy of social impact, wishing to be remembered not for the numbers in his bank account, but the good he did in the world. He knew that, in the end, what really mattered was not how much he owned, but how much he had transformed the lives of others. This was Eduardo's life, a millionaire who chose simplicity and altruism, living an existence that proved that a man's true worth is not measured by money, but by the positive impact he leaves around him. Enough, Eduardo said, patience wearing thin. You think your life is worth more because you have money? Know nothing about what this girl has been through. And if you had a bit of compassion, maybe you could learn something today. The tension hung in the air as Sofia looked at Eduardo, a mix of gratitude and confusion in her gaze. Thank you, she whispered, almost unable to believe that someone like him would care. You don't need to thank me, he replied, softening his tone. I'm just doing what is right. He turned to the young people again. If you have nothing good to say, I suggest you walk away. What you are doing is cruel and unnecessary. The young people exchanged glances, visibly unsettled. Come on, guys, Clara said, breaking the silence. It's not worth it to stay here. Let's go. With that, the group turned and began to walk away, casting disdainful looks back, but lacking the courage to confront Eduardo further. When they were finally alone, a wave of relief and tension dissolved in the air. Eduardo looked at Sofia, who was still visibly shaken. Are you okay? Yeah, concerned. I don't know, Sofia replied, her voice low. It's hard. My mom has always fought so hard for me, and I don't want to be a disappointment to her. Eduardo stepped forward. Sofia, you are not a disappointment. You are strong, and I admire your courage. Remember that your story is not over yet. Don't let the cruel words of others define who you are. She looked at him, and for the first time, a glimmer of hope began to spark in her heart. Thank you, Eduardo. I just wish I could be worthy of what you are doing for. Sofia and Eduardo were sitting on a park bench. The silence between them was heavy. After a few moments, Eduardo broke the silence. The letter? From the university, isn't it? Sofia nodded, struggling not to cry. I didn't pass. My mom, Dona Marta, always worked so hard, believing that I would have a better future. She did everything for me, and I failed. Sofia, still feeling the pressure and humiliation surrounding her, took a deep breath and looked at Eduardo, who was watching her with a mix of concern and curiosity. He seemed genuinely interested in her story, and that gave her a slight hope. With a hesitant movement, she opened her backpack and took out a small cardboard box, carefully worn by time. Her heart raced as she opened it, revealing a yellowed black and white photo. This is my mom, Dona Marta, Sofia said, her voice trembling. She handed the photo to Eduardo. She always talked about how she took care of a boy when she was a governess. I never knew who that boy was, but she said he was special. Eduardo froze upon hearing the name. Dona Marta? She took care of me when I was a child. She was like a mother to me. Sofia looked surprised. Did you know my mom? Eduardo took the photo with trembling hands, his eyes widening as he saw the familiar face of Dona Marta. It was impossible to ignore the connection forming between them. From that image, he remembered the afternoons spent in the company of the woman who always treated him like a son, even when his own mother was not around. "I knew Donna Marta," Eduardo replied, his voice faltering. "She was a second mother to me. I didn't know she had a daughter." He looked deeply into Sofia's eyes, trying to gather his memories. "She taught me so much, and I always considered her a part of my life." Sofia didn't know what to say. Eduardo's words left her stunned. She had always known her mother was special. Hearing it from someone who knew her was different. The pain and longing she felt for Donna Marta mixed with a new and disconcerting feeling. "I only have her in memories," Thea said, looking down. "She always said the past was far away, that we should live in the present, but I can't help feeling like something is missing. It's as if part of me is lost." Eduardo nodded, understanding the depth of the pain the young woman felt. He remembered how Donna Marta always talked about her life and dreams, even when everything seemed lost. He wanted to give back what she had given him. He didn't know how. "You are her daughter. That means you have the same strength she had," Eduardo encouraged, searching for words that could comfort her. "What do you dream of doing? What would you like to study?" Sofia hesitated again, glimmer of hope beginning to light up in her heart. She had never shared her dreams with anyone besides her mother. "I want to study biology. I dream of understanding how life works and maybe helping other people." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. "But I don't know if that's possible for someone like me." Eduardo smiled, a smile that conveyed warmth and understanding. He took her hand, a simple gesture, one that carried significant weight. "Don't let others tell you what you can or can't do. You are more than your current situation. You are the daughter of an incredible woman and have the ability to achieve your dreams." He paused, his eyes fixed on hers. "And I want to help." Sofia felt a warmth rise within her. Eduardo's words were not just a consolation. They were an invitation to believe that something greater could happen in her life. She wondered if she could trust him, if it was really possible for a man like him to care so much for someone like her. "Do you really want to help me?" Sofia asked, the hint of skepticism in her voice. "Why would you care?" Eduardo sighed, a flicker of vulnerability in his gaze. "Because I am also someone who seeks connection. And, in a way, you remind me of who I was as a child, when everything still held hope." He looked toward the horizon, as if reliving memories. "And Donna Marta, she deserves for her daughter to have a chance." Sofia didn't know what to say. It was the first time someone cared for her in such a genuine way. But a doubt lingered. Could she trust Eduardo? Could she believe that her past didn't define her, and that a bright future could be within her reach? Eduardo took a deep breath, still processing the revelation he had just heard. The connection between him and Sofia, which until then felt like coincidence, was now becoming an invisible thread that bound their lives in a deep and meaningful way. He remembered Donna Marta, the woman who had always been by his side, offering an unconditional love that he lacked at home. "She always said that love is what makes us strong, even in hardships," Eduardo murmured, looking into Sofia's eyes. "She was an amazing woman," Sofia replied, her voice choked with emotion. "She always talked about you, Eduardo. She said you were a special boy who deserved the world, despite the difficulties you faced." Sofia's words ignited a flame of nostalgia and sorrow in Eduardo. He remembered how Donna Marta's presence brought warmth to his cold, impersonal home. "I never got to thank her for everything she did for me," Eduardo confessed, his gaze distant. "She was like a mother to me at a time when I needed it most." Sofia observed the vulnerability that shone through Eduardo's face and felt touched. It was rare to see a millionaire expose his feelings so genuinely. "She would do anything for you. I always knew there was a connection between you two," Sofia said, trying to find comfort in the idea that her mother had been an important part of someone so influential's life. "But even so, I never imagined that one day you would be here talking to me." Eduardo smiled faintly, though sadness still weighed on his heart. "Did you know that I always looked for her? After she disappeared, I felt lost. And now, knowing that you are her daughter, that changes everything." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I feel guilty for not having done more to find her." Sophia frowned. The pain of losing her mother mixed with the hope that blossomed in their conversation. She always said that the past cannot be changed, Eduardo. But we can honor those we love by living our lives the best way possible. Sophia's words resonated in Eduardo's heart, and he realized that, despite the pain and regret, there was an opportunity to rewrite the future. I would like to help you, Sophia. Not just for Dona Marta, but because you deserve it, he said, voice steady. What can I do to make your life a little easier? Sophia's eyes lit up, but the reality of her situation made her hesitate. I just wanted the chance to study, fulfill my dream, she confessed, vulnerability still present in her voice. But life hasn't been kind to me. Eduardo felt a tightness in his chest upon hearing the pain in her words. He wanted to do more than just offer momentary comfort. Then let's do this together, Eduardo proposed, determination growing within him. I can help you get a scholarship. And who knows, maybe you can help me find Dona Marta? No matter where she is, I promise I will look for her. Sophia fell silent, absorbing the proposal. The idea of teaming up with Eduardo, of sharing this quest, felt like a path she had never considered. Would you do that for me? Sophia asked, the incredulity evident in her tone. Eduardo nodded, a resolute glimmer in his eyes. Yes, I will do that. And who knows, along the way, we might discover more about ourselves and the legacy Dona Marta left. The two looked at each other, connection between them stronger than ever. The shared past was now a bond that united them. And Sophia began to believe that perhaps there was a way forward. A path that would not be marked only by pain, but also by hope and the possibility of a new beginning. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky a soft golden hue, and Eduardo decided it was time to take action. The unexpected meeting with Sophia had awakened in him not just nostalgia for his childhood, but also a sense of responsibility he could not ignore. He remembered Dona Marta, a strong and generous woman, always cared for others before taking care of herself. Now he had the chance to honor her memory, and he wasn't going to let it pass. Let's approach them, Eduardo said, his voice firm but softened by determination. Sophia looked at him with wide eyes, a mix of fear and hope. The group of wealthy young people was still there, laughing and mocking in a way that made Sophia feel small and invisible. But Eduardo, sensing the growing tension, held her hand. Trust me, Sophia. I won't let them hurt you anymore, he assured her, looking into her eyes. Sophia took a deep breath, feeling his courage infiltrating her veins. She nodded slowly, determined to face her tormentors. As they approached the group, Eduardo maintained an upright posture, his gaze fixed on the young people who had previously mocked Sophia. Hey you, he began, drawing their attention. The group turned, their expressions a mix of surprise and disdain. What are you doing here, mocking someone who can't defend herself? One of the young men, a blond guy with an arrogant smile, made a face. Look who it is, the Prince Charming. Here to protect the peasant? Group's laughter echoed, but Eduardo did not let himself be intimidated. Actually, I'm here to talk about the woman you disrespect, Eduardo said, his voice now louder and clearer. Sophia is not just any young girl. She is the daughter of Dona Marta, the woman who saved my life when I was just a child. Silence fell over the group, the exchanged glances revealing confusion and disbelief. Sophia, in turn, felt warmth rising to her face. She had never spoken about her mother with such emphasis, and now Eduardo was doing it for her. Dona Marta was an extraordinary woman, Eduardo continued. She cared for me, taught me values, and I never sought her out after she passed. Now, I know I left her alone, and the least I can do is protect her daughter from people like you. The young people began to fidget, the nervousness now evident. Blonde guy tried to recover. And what are you going to do? You can't force us to apologize. We are who we are. However, you have a choice to make, Eduardo said, voice firm. You can apologize and acknowledge the wrongness of your actions, or you can deal with the consequences of your words. He looked at Sophia, who was watching him with a mix of admiration and surprise. Sophia is a brilliant scholar and deserves a chance, and if you're not able to respect that, I will make sure your actions have repercussion. The group of young people began to disperse, the arrogance they once had slowly fading away. One of them, a girl with curly hair and light eyes, the first to speak. I'm sorry, Sophia. We didn't know your mother was, well, so important. I shouldn't have laughed at you. The others nodded, one by one reluctantly apologizing. Sofia, still dazed, looked at Eduardo, who encouraged her with a smile. You are stronger than you think, Sofia. Never let anyone shake your sense of worth. After the young people left, Eduardo turned to Sofia, his gaze now softer. I would like to offer you a full scholarship. I can also help your mother find a job. No one else will have to go through hardships. His words resonated with Sofia like a hopeful melody. You would do that for me? Her voice trembled, and emotion overflowed in her eyes. Eduardo nodded, his expression serious but kind. Yes, and more than that, I'm the new CEO of one of the largest companies in the country. I can make a difference, and I want you to be a part of it. Sofia couldn't hold back her tears. The life she had always dreamed of was about to materialize before her. Thank you, Eduardo. I don't know what to say, she murmured, emotion almost choking her. Say that you will seize this opportunity. Future is yours, Sofia. Together, let's honor Dona Marta's memory. And so, under the darkening sky, a new chapter opened for Sofia, as the echoes of humiliation dissipated, giving way to the promise of a new beginning. A few weeks had passed since the meeting in the square. During that time, Sofia and Eduardo kept in touch, exchanging frequent messages and phone calls. Eduardo kept his promise, and after several discreet meetings, he secured something that would change Sofia's life forever. One afternoon, they met in the same square where it all began. Eduardo was smiling, holding a folder in one hand. Sofia, I have a surprise for you, said, handing her the folder. Sofia opened the folder with trembling hands and found an envelope inside. As she opened it, her eyes widened. It was an acceptance letter from the university she had always wanted, along with a full scholarship. Eduardo, how did you do this? She asked, incredulous. I just gave a little help. The rest was all your merit, Eduardo replied, smiling. You deserve this, Sofia. And more than that, I want you to know that you won't be alone. I will help you with expenses during your studies so you can focus entirely on your education. Tears finally streamed down Sofia's face, but this time they were tears of joy. I don't know how to thank you, she said, hugging Eduardo tightly. You saved my future. You don't need to thank me, Eduardo replied, returning the hug. Your mother did so much for me, and I'm happy to be able to give back in some way. I want you to know that I'll be here for you every step of this journey. In the months that followed, Sofia dedicated herself to her studies, with Eduardo by her side as a true friend and mentor. They shared moments of joy, challenges, and growth. Over time, the friendship between the two strengthened even more, based on trust and mutual support. Sofia not only thrived academically, but also found ways to give back to Eduardo for his help. She got involved in research projects that he supported and started helping other students from humble backgrounds, inspired by her own journey. I will never forget what you did for me, Sofia said on a sunny afternoon as they walked through the square. You changed my life, and I hope I can do the same for others, just like you did for me. Eduardo smiled, feeling pride swell within him. You are already doing that, Sofia, and that is the greatest reward I could ask for. The two continued walking side by side, knowing they had found not just a friend, but a true ally in life. The future was uncertain, but together, they knew they could face any challenge that came their way. Their friendship, born from hardships, was now an indestructible force that would guide them on any journey. If you like this story, please follow us, like the video, and turn on the notification bell for new exciting stories. See you soon.